Y'all. I gotta spit a bunch of knowledge before it gets dark because after dark, it's all speculative masonry. It's Monday, it's Moon Day, it's gonna be Moon Lodge tonight. But I gotta get you guys up to speed so that we're all on the same page when it goes down. So after the death of King James, his son Charles Stuart the First takes over. In the middle of his reign, there's a huge political disruption because Parliament doesn't want to allow the king and the House of Lords to do the things that they do, and so they have a big war. Who Oliver Cromwell happens to be in charge of the army at the time. And basically, there's a war between the Episcopalians, the Puritans, and the Presbyterians. Cromwell is a Puritan. He has a hat like a pilgrim, and that's one of the things that he dressed like, like the early Americans. So anyway, Cromwell, because he's in charge of the army, ends up having the upper hand of everything, and he knows some of the old stories about Cincinnatus and George Washington and Gideon, and about how these guys came off of their fields and helped out with these wars, and then after the war was over, they just went back to the fields and they didn't assume power of their countries. So everybody thinks that that's what's going to go down with Cromwell. The war goes down, basically. Cromwell whoops everybody. Cromwell comes back to Parliament and they put the king on trial for high treason, which they convict him of. They have him put to death publicly. He goes out on the balcony. King Charles I goes out on the balcony. He's wearing two shirts because he knows it's a little cold outside and he doesn't want people to see him shiver and think that he's scared to die. He takes his cross of St. George off and he kneels down and gets killed. When he gets killed, Cromwell kind of is in a power play there. He ends up going to Parliament with his hat off and walks in there real humbly, and they think that what he's going to do is the Cincinnatus thing, and he's going to say, here, I'm going back to the field, boys, or the George Washington thing, like, oh, I'm done with it. But that's not what he does. He starts to act like that, but then in the middle of the talk, he puts his hat back on, and he says, bring him in, and here comes his highest guys in the military, and they take over the whole Parliament, and they take everybody out of there, and they declare Oliver Cromwell Lord Protector of the British Isles, and he fucking takes over Scotland to a T. He takes over Ireland to a T. He has a flag with a big hand on it that represents his hand holding everybody down. He's ruthless, and he does it all behind, in my opinion, pretending to be a Puritan. But that's neither here or there. He gets declared Lord Protector of England. They have a coronation for him, but he still doesn't accept the title of king. They do everything but that. He has a scepter. He has a king. He has a king's crown on a plate near his head. You know what I mean? He's everything but the king. He's not going to take the title of king because he doesn't believe in divine nothing, divine right, at least as far as kings are concerned. He doesn't really believe in bishops or the hierarchy of the church. He's a Puritan, man. He's very kind of, he believes in a really primitive kind of a church. So when he dies, Parliament is over him by then, and they tried all kinds of ways to try to get control of his power, and they couldn't because he wouldn't accept the king title. And that might have been the thing, is that he knew being a king would actually restrict him as far as how he could behave. So basically, after he dies, Parliament gets going again, the House of Lords gets going again, and they put Charles II in charge, who had been in exile at the time, and he ends up having this, and the guy that was there when Charles I got killed gives him the cross of St. George, you know what I mean? And so that's called the Restoration, and that was just a lapse in the ruling of England, and when it wasn't ruled by kings, it was ruled by this guy who was, for lack of a better term, a king killer. But that's whatever, all opinions to the side, that's what happened. And I just want to let you in on it, and I want to give respect to my Irish ancestors as well as my Native American ancestors in having to deal with this crazy British influence on everything. But I'm going to hit you guys a little bit with the Rosicrucian talk. Don't get scared. It's going to be okay. And then after dark, there's a full moon. It's the equinox. It's Monday, and we're all about the Moon Lodge.